In the Oasis project, we have the ability to organize larger projects into what we call phases and bids. Now, for smaller projects, you really don't use this feature at all, but it's still there if you need it later. So imagine I start with an initial phase here for a small local business. I might add something as far as location and state. I'm not going to worry about that for right now. And I go over to the initial bid, put in my bill of material, and quote them out. So that's typically what happens for most projects within a particular area. Now, what happens if the project grows? Or what if I start with initial bill of material? So let me put something in here. And I quote this out to a customer. And then a couple of years later, they say, hey, we want to expand into the suite next door. We want to use basically the same lighting fixtures and everything like that. Can you quote us something? So you could start from scratch again, or what you could do is go find this existing project, because you have an alias here, you can find the business name, and then you start with the bill of material that you had previously, and you can literally go in and say, File, New, Phase like, okay? So a new phase in Oasis is basically another opportunity for a new set of orders. So as I said before, this is initial phase. As a matter of fact, I like to go back and rename them a little bit. So I'll go back to the general tab over here, the phase name, and I'll say 2014 bill of material or project or whatever you want to call it. So that shows what we did in the past. Now it's 2015, so I'll put in 2015 expansion. And that's the new phase for this existing client. And what's nice about this, I jump over the bill of material, is copy that bill of material. I reprice it, and I get a little bit faster and more precise on what I'm trying to work with this customer on. Obviously, there'll be some changes, but I don't have to recreate everything each time I have a new opportunity. So to recap real fast on phases, each phase is an opportunity for a different set of orders, basically a different project, if you will. A lot of examples are national accounts. I've seen cases where each phase is a different bid, or a different store. I've seen cases where a school district is being quoted and serviced, and what ends up happening is there may be one phase that has the agreed upon bill of material, pricing, and everything else, but then each phase after that basically is a different school name, Greystone Elementary or something like that. Now, bids are a little bit different. So when I'm working with a bid, now notice where I'm at. I have different rows of tabs here. And each bid here is really what I like to think of as a different tab or a different worksheet, if you will, inside of a workbook, which is common with a lot of the spreadsheets. So I start with one bill of material, and for some reason they said, hey, that's not really what we want to do. So I'll leave it named whatever it was. So initial, or maybe a buy or budget. So I start with a budget number, and I'll say File, New, Bid, or Bid like. So I'll start with a bid that simply just creates a bid but doesn't copy my one item here. And I can name it whatever I like. So I'll start with saying VE1 and even a VE2 or whatever. I still have the ability to look back at what I did previously, but each major change of that project is captured with whatever it was that I had. Everything as far as the material that was on the job, the customers, and so forth. We'll come into that a little bit more. But that's the main thing with project, phase, and bid inside of Oasis, is it really gives some structure for those larger projects, or even projects that start small with a local company that's growing rapidly. I start with the initial work that I did for them, and then as they expand and grow, I can keep all that information together and better serve my customer. That is projects, phases, and bids within Oasis.